Today on Adjusting, we are starting part 3, Adjusting to Center. And we are going to start to build the new life based off everything we've talked about from part 1, saying that your brain is a lie, and part 2, adjusting from fear to faith. What if it actually works out? We're doing the work and we're going to start building. So today we are kicking off by talking about the thing that made it so hard to get here in the first, the timeline, the expectations, living off someone else's blueprint, the should statements that keep popping up, and whatever else that isn't actually ours. Today we're determining what is the life I actually want and how do I get there. So sit back, relax, and let's start adjusting. And we're back with another episode of Adjusting Podcast with your host, Justin G. Nelson. Thank you all for all the support for part 2 of season 3. We're moving on today to part 3 of season 3, which is talking about adjusting your center and really pressing go on your life, but recentering or redetermining what is the center in your driving force. Yes. So thank you again to TJ from Tea with TJ podcast. He celebrated his birthday last week, and happy belated Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Thank you for supporting Substack and YouTube and Instagram. Y'all are like following and sharing, and I'm just like happy, overjoyed. And I have a few more things coming up. I just got to get caught up with some stuff, but birthday's around the corner. I'll be 37, and year 2 is approaching July 8th. So we'll do something special for that. So if you're driving, focus on the road. Speaking of focus on the road, make sure you sign up for Larissa's organization, Cliff Cares or Cares. Yeah, Cliff Cares. If you're in Memphis, they have an event coming up August 6th through the 8th at University of Memphis for distracted driving. I think it's the first ever in Tennessee, so please support that. If you're driving, focus though. And if you are not, give yourself a second to get centered for this episode. Centered. Adjusting your center. Yep. Get centered for this episode. Ground your feet flat on the floor and relax your ankles, relax your shins, relax your knees and your thighs, relax your hips, relax your stomach, relax your chest, roll your shoulders back, relax your neck, relax your chin, your cheeks, your nose, your forehead. Close your eyes, and we're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and release for 8. Let's begin. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let it all out. Let it all out. Great. Now we're going to do one more deep breath in and out just to get anything else out that might be blocking you. So breathe in and out. All right. Now, this episode, we're talking about adjusting your center, uprooting yourself from societal norms. Now, this is a mixture of things. My friend and I had a conversation yesterday about how so many things are connected to politics. And I won't be talking about that man in the office, but it's just the political impact that disrupts our nervous system and our mental health. And there are also traditional things that have been put in place that have kind of built our center. But the more you grow and the older you get, the more you realize those things either have some type of traumatic connection based on survival and don't really represent the person you are wanting to be. Also, we get to a point where we forget what our center should be. If you are a recovering people pleaser, we often center other people's needs. If you are a die-hard Christian, we were taught and raised that Jesus is the center of everything. Not saying that's wrong. But what you put under that, that is where the issue. If you center um, faith and religion, love that. Okay. If you are centering sex and intimacy, uh, unless you are deep in your tantric yoga practice, you are giving your power away to someone else to dictate your center. If you are centering money, that's scary. So, anyway, today we're going to talk about adjusting your center. Now, what does it mean to live off center and where it comes from? Now, living off center means your life has been built around someone else's blueprint. Okay? A lot of people grow up in families where sometimes the parent passes down a list of expectations based off things that they didn't accomplish and or an image they want to keep going through their kids. Case in point, dad is a doctor, mom is a doctor. Automatically, they want their child to be a doctor. Or dad is a pastor, mom is a pastor's wife. They want to keep that going. Everybody shouldn't be in the pulpit, okay? I'm a witness. Great. So, not because you're weak or naive, but because you were handed a map before you were even had a chance to learn the territory. Off-center looks like saying yes to things that may make you feel hollow. Okay? We're saying yes before we've even built the shelves inside of us. Before we've even established our core, someone else has already dictated that for us. It looks like hitting a milestone everyone said would make you happy and standing there wondering why you don't feel a damn thing. Okay, just like I did it, but like, where's this joy you were talking about? And where's this happiness? I feel empty. It looks like building a career, a relationship, and a whole identity around what was expected of you, and one day waking up feeling like a stranger in your own life. Think about it this way: being off center doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks perfectly fine on the outside. You got your shit together, okay? It looks like you got your shit together. You have the job, the apartment, the relationship, your money's flowing, the creative things are happening, you have a routine, but underneath, something is off. Something is off. Like a picture hanging crooked on a wall that you've been noticing, you've adjusted to the tilt. Like you're like, well, if I turn my head this way, it's fine. It's just like somebody's hairline. That's what living off center does. It makes the wrong thing feel normal. Now, if we want to get technical, the term is introjection. Introjection. When we absorb other people's values, expectations, and standards and start treating them as our own without consciously choosing them. It's not a flaw, it's something we subconsciously do without knowing. It's a very human thing to do, especially when you're young, when belonging and survival feel like the same thing. Now, where do these norms come from? I said it before, repeat it again with a little more detail. Family, this is usually the first layer, okay? The messages you got, spoken and unspoken, about what success looks like. And like, I know in grade school, we were like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he was like, I want to be this, I want to be this. The kids are often saying this based off their environment, who they've been exposed to, what they've seen in the home, sometimes the church. So their scope of success is very limited, okay? It looks like what success looks like, who you're supposed to marry, who you're supposed to show up, how you're supposed to show up, what's acceptable to feel, what you should keep quiet about. Family systems have their own culture, okay? And you were born into yours without consent. Again, last week I said you weren't asked to be here. I wasn't asked for this life, but you threw it at me. religion and spiritual communities. This is like the second layer of the norms. For a lot of us, especially those in the deconstruction period of their life, they're looking for some type of liberation. This kind of runs deep, okay? So brace yourself. The rules weren't just rules. They were tied to your worth, your safety, your salvation. All right? So unlearning those messages isn't just intellectual, it's a whole evacuation. Okay, it's just like hitting reset and not starting at Genesis. It's like starting with the Gospels and jumping to Psalms and then going to Proverbs and then maybe go to the law books. And then, it's just like rewiring your understanding of faith, because in my head some people who do not get proper doctrine, and I'm not saying everyone has to go to seminary, but everyone has to have an open interpretation of the Bible and not just your lived experience, because I don't know what you went through before you got in the pulpit, but I won't let you preach to me based off your point of view when it has some holes. Okay, it's just like putting on some old underwear and just like everything's fine. That's unsanitary. Get some fresh underwear. You grow. Culture and ethnicity. Now, this is a big thing. Juneteenth was the other day. It's a lot of stuff happening. Even in the bookish community, I went to the Tribeca Film Festival, and it's jarring to see that Black people are just like we try to show up in all these spaces, but no matter how loud we are, how much work we do, how many books we write, we'll still be like the lower 7%. And someone was posting like the Goodreads top 10 books thus far in 2026, and it was like one Black person, Percival Everett. Kudos to him. All right, he is holding it down. But when it comes to culture and ethnicity, collective cultures often prize duty, honor, and sacrifice above individual fulfillment. Great. Individualistic cultures can glorify hustle, independence, and achievement above connection and rest. Neither one is inherently wrong, but when you've inherited a cultural script that doesn't fit who you actually are, it creates real friction. It makes you go, I don't like this. Like, my body does not resonate with this. And the real guilt when you try to live differently. Now, here's the kicker: capitalism and social media. These two are working together. Okay. And I need you to know one thing: capitalism tells you your worth is tied to productivity. Social media turns that into a highlight reel with a timeline attached and a new feature coming every week. Suddenly, you're not just behind in your own head. You can see in real time who has what you should have by now. The comparison is a constraint and it's constant, and the algorithm is designed to make you feel like you're falling short. Case in point, the other day, my friend, he's an author, Lamar Brown, reached out. He's like, "Hey, bro, how's it going? And don't just tell me it's good." And I told him, I was like, I feel like I'm behind on my book content. I should be doing more reviews. I should be reading more of this. I should be doing more of this. He said, "Who said that? Like, you can only do so much. Like, you work 4 jobs and you are reading. Like, who says you have to do a review on every book?" And I was like, you know what? Thank you for that recentering, that reframe of what I felt like I should be doing. But I was comparing myself to these other book talkers who are getting arcs and getting book mail and getting all this stuff. And I was like, I'm not showing up enough. I'm doing the best I can with what I got. All right. So I had to pause, and remove that blueprint from the hustle and the social media grind of it all. Now, how does living off center show up in real life? So my main categories I'm always going to talk about is relationship, career, daily life, and faith-based settings. And your creatives, if you're a creative listening. So in relationships, it looks like staying in dynamics that drain you because leaving feels selfish. It's like shrinking yourself. Losing yourself for a love that was never meant to be. It's like creating a life based off someone else's expectations and losing yourself in the moment. That is what living off center feels like. Why would you want to do that? Like I get some people have major insecurities, and they come to the point where they're so crippling, and the partner you're with knows that, and they abuse it, and they keep you small so that it benefits them. Let me go back to this script. It looks like standard dynamics that drain you. It looks like shrinking yourself to make someone else feel comfortable. It looks like performing the role of girlfriend, boyfriend, daughter, friend, or partner so well that you forget to check in with yourself to see what you actually want. It's some of y'all like to play house with no ring. Like y'all are doing everything. Everything without a ring. And I was like, how? Why? Like you finna do what for him? You she asked you to do what? Maybe I don't know. I'm single. So maybe I can't talk about relationships in this point. But I'm gonna say what I feel. I just think some of y'all need to back the hell up, pause, rewind, and press record over the life you thought you needed. Because that ain't it. Now, in career, it looks like climbing a ladder you didn't choose, staying in a field because your parents invested in the degree, calling a paycheck security even when the work makes you miserable. You see these bags under my eyes? Or the opposite, romanticizing struggle because hustle culture told you suffering means you're serious about your dreams. Hey, Broadway, this is for you. Now, in creative work, it looks like abandoning projects because you don't have an obvious monetization path. Some of us, we've lost the art of hobbying. Okay. Now, for the longest, I didn't want to turn this into money. These books behind me, they cost me money. And I discovered yesterday, after buying more books, that this doesn't have to be money. This can be me honoring my inner child. Okay. This is like my childhood corner of my apartment where I can just sit and get lost in a book. I can create characters, learn more, enrich my brains. You know, statistics say that reading more reduces the chances of dementia. I'll be 37. I got a lot of books to read, okay? So take that, dementia. Now, comparing your timeline to other people's is another way living off center shows up. Creating for approval instead of expression. Editing yourself before you even started. In daily life, it looks like a calendar full of obligations and a to-do list that has nothing on it that actually feeds you. It looks like busyness as a badge of honor. I'm going back to Pastor Lacey's, my pastor's anniversary, and the celebrant. She said, a lot of y'all are busy bees in the busy bee ministry that no one asks for. Find your real purpose. Find your real position. See, I love a sermon that sticks with you, okay? Like rest that comes with guilt attached. As much as I wrestled with the book, Rest is Resistance, I would highly recommend reading that as it relates to capitalism and everything we're talking about with living off center. If you can get through the first two parts, you'll love part three. I was upset. I love the book, but I was upset. And I think that's a good book. If a book makes you upset, that's a good book. But what does living off center cost us? The cost of living off center is cumulative, all right? It's not always dramatic, it's the slow erosion of the self. All right, it starts with the nervous system and it just goes haywire from there. It's like low grade anxiety that comes from performing a version of yourself that isn't real. It's the exhaustion of trying to maintain something that doesn't fit. It's just like it's like walking in heels you can't walk in, but because you know, if I don't wear these heels, people are gonna think girl, if you get them kitten heels, dude, if you don't get no shoes that fit, like you're trying to keep up with somebody who ain't even looking for you. Okay? And therapy sometimes causes self-abandonment. You've heard this before. The ongoing act of betraying your own needs, desire, and truth in order to stay acceptable to others. And it compounds. The longer you do it, the harder it gets to remember what you actually want. And it's a lot of y'all, myself included, that deal with self abandonment for the sake of a company. Case in point, I love my job, but Lord knows I didn't move here to do that. Okay. But because survival and capitalism says I need X, Y, and Z money, I stay. So look for an update coming soon. Now, there's also grief connected to this. When you wake up, when you start to wake up and realize how, I forgot I wrote this. When you wake up and realize how long you've been living someone else's dream, there's a mourning process attached to that for the time you didn't get to live yourself, to for the time you didn't get to live as yourself. That grief is valid. It doesn't mean you wasted your life. It means you're finally, we're going to reframe it. You didn't waste your life, but you're finally waking up. You're finally waking up to grieve it. And this moment here is the actual beginning of you reclaiming your center. Now, section 2, adjusting, learning to notice, name, and slowly return to yourself. I love a Maxine, what's her name? Maxine Walter, Maxine, Aunt Maxine. Reclaiming my time, reclaiming my center, all right? How do you know when you're living by someone else's standards? How do you know? How will I know? The first signal is often a feeling more than a thought. It's a low level sense of wrongness that shows up. It feels dirty. When you're doing something you're supposed to want and it just doesn't land. Okay? The promotion that doesn't feel like a win. And a relationship milestone that just feels like a check box, like I did it. But it wasn't like you did it, Joe. It was like I did it, you know? A life that looks great in photos, but it looks dead behind the eyes. You know, you're like, and it's like you look happy, but you don't look happy. You know, that's that dissonance. And for my musicians out there, that dissonance is your center trying to get your attention. It's like, and another signal is the should statements. Going back to part 1, those cognitive distortions. When you catch yourself saying, I should be further along by now, I should want this, I should be grateful. Shut up. Pause. All right. That word is almost always borrowed. It's almost always someone else's voice living in your head rent free. Ask yourself, whose voice is this? And then ask, do I actually agree? Okay, because a lot of our successful Black people didn't really find their footing and their success until after their 40s. Okay, so live your life. And then watch for resentment too. Mm. Mm. Resentment is one of the clearest signs that you've been living off center when you keep doing things out of obligation and guilt and performance, but never out of genuine desire. Resentment builds. It's not a clear character flaw. It's information. It's your nervous system. Okay. It's flagging that there's a gap between what you're doing and what you actually need. Now, what's the difference between your actual values and inherited ones? Let's get a little deeper. This is real work because inherited values aren't always wrong. Sometimes you examine them and decide you actually do believe them, but you have to examine them. You have to sit with them. You have to nibble on them. A value isn't really yours until you've held it up to the light, asked where it came from, and consciously chosen it anyway. Your actual values are the things that matter to you when no one is watching. The creative project you work on, even when no one's going to see it. Case in point, this podcast. Okay. I don't have thousands of views. I get like 30 an episode, but I still show up because I know that one day this will, So bookmark that, all right? The type of relationship that actually makes you feel safe. My friend Tony posted about that on TikTok. He was like, I prayed for a relationship that healed my nervous system, and I'm in it now. And a lot of people think they are attracted to a certain person, but I think it's your trauma telling you you want this. Not a heal space in your heart, in your mind. The pace of life that actually restores you, not one that looks more productive on social media. Now, performative values, that's another term for you, are the things you prioritize because they signal something to others, or because abandoning yourself or them would cost you belonging. So, staying in a career because it sounds respectable, maintaining a relationship dynamic because leaving would require a whole conversation, which it would also shift your social status, presenting a version of your life online that is more curated than the real. Wow. Well, one way to start separating these things out is to ask, if no one knew about this choice, not my family, not my friends, not Instagram, whatever, would I still make it? We need to start gatekeeping again. But the answer to that is clarifying every time. So, what does it look like to start returning to your center, even in small ways? It does not have to be big or dramatic. You do not have to make a Facebook post saying, I am adjusting my center. You can share this episode, though. It doesn't require you to quit your job, in your relationship, or post a manifesto. Returning to center starts small and it's private. And I always say, heal in private and praise out loud, okay? But heal in private. And another thing I say a lot of stuff to myself. It was a lot of people suffer in silence because telling other people, people suffer in silence because other people talk too much or just talk too loud. So I want you to heal in silence, you know? Yeah. It might look like declining one obligation this week that you only said yes to out of guilt. It might look like finishing that creative project you've been hiding. It might look like having an honest conversation you've been avoiding. It might look like choosing rest without having to justify it. It might look like sitting with the question, what do I actually want here, even if you don't have an answer? Returning isn't a destination, it's a practice. Because you're always moving, okay? And every small aligned choice is a deposit into the life that's actually yours. Now, I left some stuff out for the sake of time, but if you go to Substack, we'll talk about the discomfort and grief of letting go. I'll give you a little sample. Here's the thing nobody warns you about. Returning to your center is not just liberating. It's also uncomfortable and sometimes heartbreaking, because when you start living by your actual values instead of borrowed ones, some people in your life are going to notice and some of them not going to like it. Okay, so that more is on Substack. So, section 3, applying. 5 things to consider as you start returning to your center. Great. I want you to sit with this. Number 1, roll your shoulders back, all right? Here comes my favorite word. Know the difference between a boundary and a wall, and build accordingly. Okay, returning to your center isn't about closing yourself off from the world or from people who love you. It's about getting clear, crystal clear. Okay, hear me when I say this in my Karen Huger voice. Let me be clear, okay? It's about getting clear on what you're building your life around and making sure that that foundation is actually yours. A wall keeps everything out because everything feels dangerous. A boundary is specific. It says, this is where I end and where you begin. And I'm choosing what gets to come in. As you start to uproot from the norms that never fit, ask yourself, am I building a boundary or am I building a wall? One protects your center, the other isolates you from it. Number 2, grief is not a sign you made the wrong choice. Did you hear me? Grief is not a sign you made the wrong choice. When you start living differently, when you start walking from the path you were supposed to be on, When you disappoint someone, when you let a relationship or a version of yourself go, grief is going to show up. It's going to be like, hey, you right. I'm here because I know you feel guilty. And your brain, especially the work we did in part one, is going to try to interpret that grief as evidence that you made a mistake, and it's not. Grief is the price of growth. Grief is the price of growth. It means something real is changing. The sadness you feel when you let go of a norm that no longer fits isn't regret, it's mourning. Let yourself mourn it and then keep moving. Number 3, you are allowed to want something different than what you were raised to want. Okay? It sounds simple, but it ain't. Because the wanting comes with guilt. It comes from the voice in your head that sounds like your mama, your pastor, your daddy, the culture, your college advisor, the version of yourself that thought you had it all figured out. But wanting something different doesn't mean you're ungrateful. It doesn't mean you're selfish. It doesn't make you lost. It makes you honest. And honesty, especially with yourself, is one of the bravest things you can do for your future self and for your inner child. Number 4, not every door that opens in your off-center life is a sign you should stay. This one is for the people who are afraid to uproot because things aren't bad enough. To justify changing, you have the job, it's fine. The relationship is comfortable, it works, your life looks good on paper, and that okay is part of what keeps you stuck because you keep waiting for things to get bad enough to give you permission to want more. But here's what I want to let you know. A door opening is not confirmation that the room is right for you. Okay? Sometimes it's just the door. You still get to choose. All right? Ain't nothing pulling you through the door. Sometimes it's your nervous system. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes it's just you. Number 5. You don't have to know what your center looks like yet. You just have to start listening. You listening? You don't have to have a vision board. I have one. You don't have to have a 5-year plan of your centered life. You just have to start paying attention. Start noticing what feels true versus what feels performed. Okay? Start asking, what do I actually want here? Because I've been doing a lot of that lately. Like coming into year 37, I believe the people now when they say your 30s are really when you start discovering who you are. And those friend groups get small. The career path might shift, it might adjust. And you're just like, how did I get here? And where do I want to go? And sometimes you got to talk to yourself. You know, you can journal, but I be talking to myself. Again, in this apartment, I be talking to myself. And in the small moments before you tackle the big ones, the more you practice listening to yourself, catching those distorted thoughts from part 1 and choosing freedom over fear like we did in part 2, and now getting quiet enough to hear your own voice, the clearer your center becomes. It's not built in a day, all right? Because I've been working on this for at least 3 years, but it is built one choice at a time. So that's the episode. Okay, we got 5 more weeks of this. Some beautiful episodes are coming. Like I was working on the outline. I'm gonna post it, and mind blowing. But I just want to say, I know this one might have stirred some things up, and that's good. Okay, I want you to sit with a mirror and like, what is it that I actually want? How much of what I'm doing now is what I want to do, based off what tradition and the past wanted me to do. The fact that you're sitting here willing to ask yourself, what is actually mine? That's not a small thing. It's the beginning of everything. Okay? So we spent part 1 learning to catch the lies our brain tells us. We spent part 2 learning to choose freedom even when we were afraid. And now in part 3, we are going to build. Yes. Not the life someone else designed for you, yours. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be bold. It's going to be courageous. It's not gonna be perfect though, okay? Because that ain't it. But it's gonna be real, okay? And I'll see you next week. But in the meantime, take care of yourself. Drink some water. Stay hydrated. Until next time, keep adjusting. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. I hope you take something away to help you make the adjustments you need. Before you go, please take a quick second to share this with someone you care about. And if you can, please leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. For more information about adjusting or to inquire about being a guest, head over to adjustingpod.com. Until next time.